So we got Drew with the Arceus Gengar on the left up against Daniel Lynch with the Suicune Inteleon on the right. So I definitely favor Drew in this one because you can play with a pretty small bench as Drew. Also, Drew plays the Collapse Stadium, and Daniel plays no counter stadium. So once a Collapse Stadium comes into play, Daniel can only play with a 4 bench, and then Drew's going to be trying to play with less than 4 bench. Drew's going to be trying to play with like 3 Pokemon in play total, probably. And one of the interesting things about the way Drew's list is built is Drew doesn't really play that many support Pokemon. There's no Inteleon, there is the B-Barrel, there's no Crobat, there's no Luminion. So even if Drew had like a dead hand and would want to go get a Crobat to set up more, Drew just kind of can't and kind of has to live off the top deck. So like almost like it forces Drew to live off the top deck in some scenarios potentially, but it also just means Drew never has Pokemon to bench anyways. So like Drew can't actually like not misplay, but go down a line of play that would have been better, but now just doesn't have the basic Pokemon to do it. So I definitely favor Drew overall in this one because there's just so few Pokemon in the deck, so you're just not gonna end up with that many in play usually. And then Collapse Stadium, pretty good to limit Finn's bench to 4. It looks like Finn goes first here. Quick Ball off, or Quick Ball's away in energy. Checking the prize cards, of course. Keep going. The hand does not look great. There's a lot of water energy in Finn's hand there. That hand does not look very good, to be honest. I don't like that hand at all. Gets a Sobble, level ball for another Sobble or a Lotad. Has an Ultra Ball, has a Rare Candy. And yeah, 2 water evolutions. I mean, it's not terrible, but like you definitely don't want that many. It's just a lot of water energy in the opening hand there for sure. I was actually kind of surprised to see an Ultra Ball in the list from Finn because Ultra Ball's just not that good in Inteleon decks in general, it feels like, but also very bad in Suicune because Suicune plays with very small hands a lot of the time, especially in the early turn. So Ultra Ball's just not very good. And once you've established a bigger hand, Ultra Ball becomes pretty irrelevant at that point as well. So Drew gets the turn 1 attachment, so Drew's gonna actually be able to use Trinity Nova turn 1 or Trinity Charge, gets the doof down, has a Marnie, has a boss, doesn't have to actually use either of them here to be honest, but ends up going with the Marnie anyways. Saves the boss. I almost would have maybe liked to have seen the Hyper Potion be saved and then Ultra Ball away the boss there, to be honest, because in this matchup, if Drew's able to play with a really small bench, Finn might be forced to have to set up 2-hit KOs on Arceus or Gengar. And in that situation, Drew can get the heal off with the Hyper Potion and then make it so Finn basically wasted a turn. So I wouldn't have hated to see giving up the boss here from Drew and then keeping the Hyper Potion around because boss isn't like that good in this matchup. Like you can chase some stuff, but usually a Suicune's in the active and you're KOing it, or Finn is going to have no Suicune in play for you to chase when they send up their Shady Dealings Inteleon to attack with for the turn. So I wouldn't have hated seeing the Hyper Potion stick around there, to be honest. Bench is another Arceus. I definitely don't like that. I don't think there's like no reason to bench this Arceus, I don't think, from Drew. And actually throws 2 on the Arceus, so maybe Drew just plans to retreat this Arceus next turn. And then attack with a fresh V on the bench, I guess, is the only thing I can think of here, actually. Also curious that Drew went with 2 Dark Energy on the Arceus instead of the Gengar. I'm curious about that as well. Why the 2 energy on the Arceus instead of the Gengar. Because if you get... Oh, I guess you want to set up for... I guess Drew's setting up for the... what's it called, actually? The Trinity Nova knockout with a Choice Belt. But you get that anyways with a DTE with a Choice Belt. So it's kind of the same thing, right? You get there anyways. So yeah, it's curious to have the 2 Dark Energy on the Arceus V for sure. But I guess it opens up your lines of play as far as what you need to get off Starbirth. Because if you just like, draw into a basic Dark, then all of a sudden the Arceus is attacking. So you don't need to Starbirth for a DTE. You can go with the basic Dark instead. So I guess that makes sense. Finn's got the attack with the Suicune, but I don't think we're going to see a 1-hit KO on this Arceus. I guess it is possible if you do have the Candy Ludicolo here. There's a Capture Energy on the bench Suicune as well. Gonna get probably another Sobble into play here. I guess could pull off the Candy Ludicolo here and actually get the KO. Maybe that's why Drew favored actually setting up another Arceus here. Was just like, if they get the Candy Ludicolo, then I need like another attacker. Which I guess that makes sense then, to want to put the Arceus in play. It's like if they get the Candy Ludicolo, I'm kind of in a tough spot. So another Sobble down. Does not bench the second Lotad. And then is doing 180 here. So not quite a knockout, but pretty close. Did not get the Candy Ludicolo in the end, which I'm sure Finn would have gone for if they did get it. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't want to do the Candy Ludicolo play here. Evolution Incense. Here comes the V-Star. I don't see a supporter. And I do see a Switch and a Choice Belt. So the knockout is happening to the Suicune on the next turn here for Drew. Drew will get the knockout here. So just needs to get like another energy here. And is eyeing up the Collapse Stadium as well. I don't know if Finn knew about the Collapse Stadiums or not going into this, because probably wouldn't have overbenched like this if you knew they had the Collapse Stadium. But yeah, now the Collapse Stadium is going to come down, and it's going to make things a little bit awkward for Finn here, because you have to like, I mean, you have to just get rid of a Sobble here as Finn, I think. But it just like, it's going to be awkward when it happens. Yeah, I don't know if Finn knew about the Collapse Stadiums. Going to go with the Hard Retreat over playing the Switch. I don't mind that because the Arceus doesn't really want to come back to the active at all at any point. And yeah, there's the... and then Finn kind of like stops. And this is what makes me think... I remember watching this moment live. And this made me think Finn probably didn't know the Collapse Stadiums existed. Because otherwise you wouldn't like... There's like nothing really to think about. Like you always discard Sobble. But it makes me think Finn didn't know about the Collapse Stadium. There's a knockout. So now Finn can only play with 4 Pokemon on the bench. So Finn only has that much less control over the damage. Drew sets up does set up the other Arceus again, which I guess is fine. Puts the extra energy here on this damaged Arceus, I guess, just in case you need to attack with it later in the game. You have another attacker set up ready to go, and you don't want to bench like a fresh Arceus V anyways to start loading up as well. So, it should be fine to like set up the damaged Arceus there. All right, so we go into the active for Finn. Finn can get the one-hit KO here on the active, but now needs the Choice Belt. Because of the Collapse Stadium, Finn needs like 4 bench, 100 damage, 160, 260 with Candy Ludicolo, 290 with the Choice Belt. So Finn can get the one-hit KO here, but Finn does need a lot. It is possible. There's the Melanie to the Suicune. And then needs, yeah, Candy Ludicolo plus plus the Choice Belt. So it needs basically everything here. It's definitely possible, though. It's definitely possible. We'll see if Finn gets it, though. And if not, you could go with, like, Candy Ludicolo hit to set up the KO for the Inteleon on the following turn. I guess that's a play you could make. Here is Finn. And is starting to set up the Drizzile to become the Inteleon on the next turn. But this has been a pretty slow game here from Finn overall. Not kind of the explosive starts we saw in the previous games from Finn. So we're looking at 160 here. And then the Inteleon does do 120. So that is 280. So this does set up the 2-hit KO for the Suicune into the Inteleon. But right now, I definitely am favoring Drew overall. Also, if Drew can just avoid putting any basic Pokemon in the discard pile, and maybe even like Retreat knockout with Gengar here, we could see a play like that. Retreat knockout with Gengar. Also, Hyper Potion here. This is where Hyper Potion would be really good. Drew's hand is looking like it doesn't have a ton of options, though, and there's like no draw power. So I don't think Drew's drawing many cards out of this hand right now. Yeah, I don't think Drew's drawing many cards. Yeah, it's just going to be the knockout here. So this opens it up for Finn to get the knockout with the Inteleon. And then from there, Finn has to like one-hit KO the Gengar afterwards, which is going to be really, really hard to do. And Drew does still have 2 Gengar, what's it called, prize. But Drew is down to 2 prize cards. So the way the prize track can break down from here is like Finn goes knockout Arceus, and then Drew goes Gengar V, knockout Inteleon, and then Drew goes attached to Arceus V, boss KO, some small dude off the bench, and take the last KO there. So it's looking pretty good for Drew, as long as Drew finds something. Drew has not been playing many cards in the last couple turns and doesn't seem to have a ton of options in hand. But there's the boss there now, actually. There's the boss. So yeah, Drew has this one pretty much lined up here, I think. And Finn does not play any hand disruption. So Finn basically has to evolve all the bench Pokemon or net some of them out of play to play around that that play from Drew. Yeah. So Finn would have to like get like a bunch of squad off the bench, which is possible, to be honest. I don't know how many nets Finn has played so far, and that Arceus is damaged. So we'd have basically from Finn we'd have to see like Candy Ludicolo, leave that Ludicolo in play with 140 HP. Because then the Arceus V can't KO it, and you have to net the Sobble out of play, or candy it into a Shady Dealings Inteleon, or candy the other Ludicolo into play or net both of them out of play while also getting to a Suicune on the following turn. So it is possible, to be honest. It is possible to pull off. What's another Sobble in play, though? So that's going to be another thing you'd have to get out of play here as Finn. And Quick Ball away as Suicune. So I'm assuming that means there's a Quick Ball or a Suicune in the hand here for Finn. Because you need a Suicune next turn. Or you will just lose. That's like another thing you have to get out of play here as Finn. To stop the boss play from happening. Alright, there we go. Hit 20 on the Gengar. Gengar VMAX is still trapped in the prize cards for Drew. Drew could also go boss KO with Arceus here. Actually, that is probably the better play, right? If you go boss KO with Arceus here, on Finn's side, the Inteleon doesn't get a KO, and then the Gengar KOs anything, so Finn has to have the double cross-switcher Suicune and knock out the Gengar play, but then I guess you would need another boss, and it's probably possible for Finn to have that, so no, I guess I do like attacking with Gengar more here, actually. The more I think about it, just getting to save the boss is probably better. Yeah, saving the boss is probably better. Raihan comes down, sets up the Arceus. Now we can well, if we with the Raihan in hand though, we knew Drew had the Raihan. Drew could have sent up the Arceus and planned to attack with the V-Star instead, saving the Gengar, which actually once again sounds a little bit better. Actually, it's probably about the same, to be honest. Because the thing is, Drew knows they're gonna get a Gengar VMAX off the prize cards. So I think I would have liked to have seen Drew send that up and then go with it that route. Actually, to be honest, I think would like to have seen Drew send up Arceus V, Raihan to it, plan to attack with the V-Star. You know you're getting a Gengar off the prize cards, the VMAX. I mean, at this point, I'm pretty sure the game is just over because Drew has a boss in hand and just goes KO, boss, KO. So it doesn't really matter. I'm sure Drew probably knows there is no gust or no hand disruption from Finn. So the only play for Finn to make would be... I don't think there is one, to be honest. I don't think there's a play here from Finn. Yeah. Shows Finn the boss, and we go to game 2. Yeah, that one was rough. It seems rough. There's like a lot of little things in Drew's list that makes things really annoying. The collapsed stadium, the hyper potion, double Sobble prized here for Finn. That's gonna be rough. And a cross switcher in the last 2. So that's rough prize cards there from Finn. Double Sobble with 2 cross switcher in the last 2 prize cards. And then on Drew's side, they didn't show us Drew's prize cards yet. Let's take a look at Drew's. Drew's, the big charm is prized, I guess, which could be nice to have the option of, but nothing too ridiculous. Yeah, that'd be nice. Finn is going first, and it looks like they can probably set up for a turn 2 Suicune attack. Going to be checking the prize cards here, and we'll unfortunately see double Sobble prized. We'll unfortunately see the double Sobble prized, and that will be... that'll be sad. But it's not the biggest of deals when you're limited to a 4 bench anyways. Like, you maybe have to play with double Sobble in play at some point anyways. The biggest thing I think that happens when you prize the basics, I guess, is just that it's harder to find them, which means setting up your full bench initially is going to be a little bit tougher, but probably not too big of a deal. I think there's a capture energy in hand here for Finn, so you get the Suicune. I don't know if there's a Melanie and water energy in hand. I don't think there's a quick ball though. So as long as there's a Drizzile, the Suicune can be attacking next turn. But with no Lotad, there's no possibility for a knockout here from Finn. So I don't know. They level balled for Sobble when they maybe should have actually level balled for Lotad here as Finn. Yeah, I feel like Finn maybe should level ball for Lotad here instead. I think that's maybe a mistake here from Finn to get the Sobble. Because that was a level ball, I believe, there. Because if you get the Lotad, you can like threaten the potential of a knockout next turn. But without Lotad, I don't think you're threatening a KO here at all. So... And even if you have to get lucky to pull off the KO, like, you're already going into what seems to be a pretty rough matchup. So, just gotta play to get lucky sometimes. And when you don't, that's where things get worse. Because then you're not giving yourself any out to win the game. The doof is found here from Drew. Trying to get off that Trinity charge turn 1, ideally. But, gonna go ahead and actually even just settle for the attachment to the Arceus. Is just content with the attachment to the Arceus. And then plays the... What's it called? Collapse Stadium, already out there aggressively, and has the V-Star next turn, so has the KO on the Suicune if it doesn't get a cape. So from Finn here, I think you got to see like a knockout plus a cape here. Or not a knockout, a hit plus a cape. You're not getting the knockout here because you didn't get down the Lotad turn 1. If you'd gotten down the Lotad, you could have made it work. But no Lotad, so... There's Shady Dealings in Inteleon, so it looks like you're going to see Candy Shady Dealings here. So this should definitely be able to set up the Suicune to attack. But like I said, there is no no potential for the KO. So it's just going to be a hit. There's the bucket for 2 water, and I think a quick ball is going to be coming out next. There's a quick ball. There's a water. Get a Lotad or another Suicune. Both are reasonable. Goes with the Suicune, and then we'll see the Melanie and the hits. Currently, we're looking at 120 damage, which is not a whole ton. It does kind of set up the 2-hit KO, or if it becomes a VMAX, you'll KO it that way as well. There's the Melanie. Would love to see a cape here, I'm sure. From Finn. Finn would love to see a cape here to make it so that the Arceus can't get the KO, but it looks like maybe no Drizzile for the cape. We'll see. Taking their time. I think you'd want the cape here if you... I don't think it was prized. I thought I checked the prize cards. I didn't think I saw anything ridiculous on the prize cards. Yeah, no cape prized. Okay, here's the level ball. There it is. Oh, it gets a scoop up net instead. So I don't think we're going to have a cape for the Suicune. But I feel like this is when you have to go for the cape for the Suicune. Yeah, I don't like that play from Finn. You could have got the... I mean, I don't know what the hand fully is, but sometimes you have to hope to get lucky off the top deck. And I think we could have... I think I would like to have seen Finn grab the cape here. Because you need to try and find some turn to get value out of the cape. Sooner than later. Maybe Finn just kind of gave up on the... No, but like if Finn probably knows that Drew plays Tool Scrapper, but... You gotta force him to get it, right? You gotta force him to get the Choice Belt, the Tool Scrapper, and the DTE, and the V-Star. Like, force them to have it all. And if they have it all, well, sheesh, then they have it all. But if they don't have it all, then you have a chance, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I think I would like to have seen Finn go for the cape there and be like, all right, maybe I can, like, buy an extra turn here. Or maybe they prize the Choice Belt, or I guess they play 2 Choice Belt. They're probably not prizing it. Maybe they prize the Tool Scrapper, or something, right? Because it's looking bad if you go this way and then they just have the KO. But I think actually Drew does whiff the KO here. I think Drew is actually just short on the KO. Was 1 piece short and actually only gets the 180. So it ends up working out for Finn here pretty well, actually. And then throws the energy on the bench Gengar there. But with the Hyper Potions in hand here, I think from Drew, we could have seen the energy I think there's 2 Hyper Potion in the hand here for Drew. You could have just thrown the energy on the active here instead of on the Gengar from Drew. I guess is there a threat of this getting knocked out? 140, 240, 270. So your active just can't be KO'd here on Drew's side. I don't even think there's a basic in the discard pile, so Echoing Horn wouldn't work as well. So that means Finn's probably not going to fully commit to a 1-hit KO. And if Finn does commit to that, that's when you can accelerate to the Gengar on the following turn. But it would also like make Finn have to work that much harder even on their next turn to get the 2-hit KO, even if they hit it for like 270 this turn. But then they would commit their Choice Belt, a Candy Ludicolo, a lot. So... I don't know. I think on this one I remember Finn chases the Gengar because Finn doesn't quite have the knockout on the Arceus V-Star, so Finn I think chases the Gengar here. One play that Finn could make here actually is to actually hit the Arceus for 270 and just hope that Drew doesn't have... I don't know if Finn knows for sure that Drew doesn't play Charon's Care. Drew doesn't play Charon's Care. Drew does play the 2 Hyper Potions, and Finn could just hope that Drew does not have the Hyper Potion here and just hit it for 270, and then you could go with, like, attack with Shady Dealings next turn and double cross-switcher up the Bidoof and go knock out Bidoof, knock out the Arceus in the same turn. So I think that would be a play I would like to see from Finn here, actually. And actually, I think what Finn ends up going with here is actually just double cross-switcher the Gengar. Which is, it just feels so bad to like KO the Gengar like that. I don't know. It's like feels bad to go chase the Gengar like that. I'm pretty sure that's the play that Finn ends up going with here. Is they go with the double cross switcher, KO the Gengar with the Suicune on the bench, and then kind of go from there. But I think it could have been a cool play if Finn had just like hit this Arceus really hard and just been like, all right, if you have the Hyper Potion, you have it. But if you don't, next turn you can go double cross switch or KO the Doof, KO the Arceus, leave them with a damaged Gengar in play as their only attacker if they don't do too much on their turn. But on the last turn, Drew didn't do that much, right? I'm sure if Drew could have set up a B-Barrel last turn, Drew would have set up a B-Barrel last turn, and they chose not to, so that means they didn't have the B-Barrel last turn, right? So yeah, I think Finn goes up with the Gust on the Arceus here, but I think they definitely could have got the Choice Belt plus Candy Ludicolo to hit for 270 here. So I think that would have been an interesting play, but they go with the prize cards here instead. This does open up the opportunity for Drew to now get a Choice Belt and get the 1-KO on this Suicune. I don't think we see the cape come down this time either, but it's kind of fine. I think it's fine for like Finn to play into that and be like, all right, you didn't have cape last turn, you're not going to have it this turn. But we do see the Raihan top decked here from Drew. So now Drew can go. Actually, no, the Raihan might have been in hand and Drew was just waiting to get knocked out. Now Drew can go get the choice belt and KO the Suicune. And if Finn had gone about the line of play that I talked about, Drew also had the hyper potions for that. So, but there was like not enough energy in play to really play around that on Drew's side. So if Drew hyper potions that Arceus, what is Drew attacking with at that point? There's really nothing to attack with. So like I said, I think it would be a cool play if Finn had actually just hit this for 270. It puts Drew in a really weird spot. Does Drew heal the Arceus? If they do that, they're not attacking. If they don't heal it, it gets KO'd by the Inteleon play. But that can be one of those situations where you just kind of hope your opponent doesn't see the play. And you're like, I'm gonna hit your Arceus really hard. Oh no, I whiffed the knockout. And then your opponent's like, oh, they whiffed the knockout. I'm gonna hit again. And then you're like, all right, here's this Inteleon play. And they're like, oh no, that sucks for me. But it ends up going down like this. And this puts Finn in a really bad spot. And then Drew even accelerates extra energy to the active here. And this sets it up so that the hyper potions are just like in full effect now. So Drew has 2 hyper potions in hand, and there's a ton of energy on this Arceus ready to be hyper potioned away. So now it puts Finn in a really weird spot because Drew has played their bench really well. So Drew has like nothing on their bench. The Clap Stadium is in play. So Finn is down a bench Pokemon, and then when Finn hits this Arceus to go for a 2-hit KO, the Hyper Potion basically completely removes the damage to be set up for a 2-hit KO. So it puts Finn in a really bad spot on this next turn coming up. Goes and gets a Drizzle. Yeah, having that one less bench to work with is so brutal for a deck like Suicune, which always wants to be playing with a full bench, not just for damage, but just for the utility that the Pokemon provide you, right? You're trying to have like a bunch of Inteleon stuff down to have options. You want double Lotad down as well, so that way your opponent can't go boss KO your only Lotad, and then you lose access to a big damage hit on your next turn. So yeah, losing that bench space, it's not just about losing the damage, it's about like losing everything. So there's a Candy Ludicolo. Okay, so they do end up going with Candy Ludicolo, so they actually can hit pretty hard here. But I'm not sure what Drew got off the prize cards there either. But if Drew can actually use both Hyper Potions here, that puts Drew in like a ridiculously good spot, I feel like. Plenty of options in the hand for Finn, and even goes with another Melanie to the active just to see more cards. Doesn't need to set up another attacker on the next turn, but is going for that Inteleon. And then it looks like it's just going to be a hit here into the... Oh, and even is going to put the Shady Dealings in play. I'm curious to actually see what Finn gets off this. Is there anything worth getting is the question, I think, more so than anything. Choice Belt Echoing Horn. Okay. But this doesn't quite get the knockout, right? So just trying to hit as hard as possible maybe here. Choice Belt Echoing Horn puts the Gengar in play. So we're looking at 170. So this does... Okay, so this actually then sets up that play that I was talking about, I guess. This sets up the play I was talking about, but it does it a turn later. So you get to go to 270, right? So this sets up the play a turn later than when I was talking about doing it. Finn goes for this play a turn later. I think Finn should have gone with this initially. Should have gone with this play initially. So now this allows Finn to like gust something up with Cross Switcher and then KO it with the Inteleon. But I'm pretty sure we see the Hyper Potions be pretty effective here from Drew. So it does that. So it removes that as a line of play. This could still get KO'd by a Suicune next turn. But now it can't even be KO'd by an Inteleon. Like 120 puts us to 270 again. And now you definitely can't do the Cross Switcher snipe KO this off the bench play. So I think if Finn had gone for this play a turn sooner, before this Arceus had 5 energy on it, there was a pretty good chance for Finn to be able to pull this one out by doing some cheesy stuff from there. So yeah, like I said, I just would have liked to have seen this play happen a turn sooner, I think, from Finn. Finn does end up going for it, but I think it's like a turn late. There's a Marnie, had another Hyper Potion in the hand, doesn't play it, but just simply negating the Inteleon play here is like good enough here, I feel like, from Drew. Puts the Dark Energy on the bottom of the deck as well, I believe, so that they can actually accelerate it to the Gengar. I might be incorrect on that. I think maybe finally found an Ultra Ball for the B-Barrel. Has the VMAX out there as well. Yeah, I think there might be an Ultra Ball in there for the Beebs. Has a Raihan in hand as well, so that way that the Gengar can be set up on the next turn for sure. There's the B-Barrel. And then, yeah, we'll be able to get the knockout on the Suicune with the Arceus. And then the Gengar just has to take 2 more knockouts to close out the game. And like I said, Drew has literally 2 Pokemon on the bench. The Clap Stadium is once again limiting Finn's bench to 4. There's basically no Pokemon in play. And then, yeah, there's the knockout. There's like no Pokemon in play. So the Suicune's just not doing a ton of damage. And it's taking away those options from Finn as well. So now Finn, to get a knockout here, has to use... This is where it gets really bad. Finn has to use a Suicune to get a knockout here. You can't even knock out this Arceus with the Inteleon. And if you go with a Suicune, you need a Suicune with a cape to knock out the active. And then the Gengar is able to knock out that Suicune unless you get a cape. If you have a cape, it doesn't knock it out. But then if you just have Choice Belt or Tool Scrapper as Drew, you do just win the game. So for Finn here, you probably kind of just have to go with Suicune plus cape and just kind of hope that that's enough. And it probably won't be, but sometimes you just have to get lucky. And that is what Finn is going for, is the Suicune, and needs to get the cape, needs to knock out the active, and then has to set up a double Ludicolo play on the next turn, which, to be honest, I'm not sure is possible because Finn plays 3 candy, and I think 2 of the rare candy have been used. So I'm pretty sure it's impossible to do a double Ludicolo play. So it's one of those situations where I feel like you just have to hope your opponent misplays almost at this point. Yeah, bad spot for Finn. And we'll see if there's anything cool that they try and do to get out of this. But I know the series does end up being a 2-0. So I'm curious if there's anything Finn tries to do. Tries to do that's cute to get out of this. We'll see. It's a Sob. There's the Raihan to excel to the Suicune. Can get the energy for the attack. I think actually Drew does not have an... Oh, no, Drew has the Raihan. I was like, Drew doesn't have an energy, but Drew has the Raihan. There's the net on the Inteleon, so it doesn't even reset the Ludicolo, which means you just can't... you can't double Ludicolo next turn if you don't have double Lotad in play, so it's not happening. A lot of Sobbles and Drizzles in the hand. Gets the bucket and needs to get something else off the Shady Dealings. But yeah, Finn's constantly shaking his head. He knows there's like no... There's no... there's no play to be had here, I think. Gets the cape. There's the bucket. They need that this turn. Saba comes out. There's the KO. Cross Switcher still in the prize cards. And then there's Drew, the Tool Scrapper, the Raihan, and the Knockout. All right, yeah. So there's nothing actually too crazy that Finn could have ever tried to put together there. Yeah, it was just like it's a tough matchup, to be honest. The Clap Stadium's tough. The way Drew's deck is built as well is like to heavily rely on B-Barrel as being like your draw power throughout the game. So that allows you to play with very few bench Pokemon in play as well. So it's just kind of a tough... and even just the Hyper Potions, like kind of forcing you to have to go back into Suicunes instead of being able to use Inteleon is a big deal as well. Like I said, I think there was that one opportunity for Finn to have hit for 270 a turn earlier and decides to hit for 270 a turn later that Finn could have taken. And probably should have taken, and then goes for the 270 a turn later, but by then Drew has already established a little bit better of a board state to deal with it, and it doesn't end up mattering. So Drew wins 2-0 in the end, and that's it. That's my Salt Lake City championships VOD review. We're done.